On an October morning in 1969, Mogadishu awoke to a new reality. The city, still carrying the echoes of its colonial past, was about to witness a dramatic shift that would shape the destiny of an entire nation. The democratic government was gone, replaced overnight by the military under Major General Mohammed Siad Barre, whose presence now dominated the capital's streets. The coup was swift and bloodless, promising to end years of corruption and political infighting that had paralyzed the country's progress. Many Somalis, weary of endless clan-based politics and government failures, welcomed the military as a force for order and progress. Hopes soared that this new leadership would finally bring stability. Barre, commander of the Somali National Army, presented himself as a patriot dedicated to national unity, determined to heal the divisions that had long plagued Somalia. In his first speeches, he called for a revolution, vowing to restore pride and build a modern Somalia. He spoke of a new era, one where Somalis would stand together as one people. He declared an end to tribalism, calling it the main threat to Somali society. Barre insisted that only unity could secure the nation's future. The assassination of President Shermark days before the coup had left a power vacuum, making the military's intervention seem necessary to prevent chaos and further bloodshed. Barre and his Supreme Revolutionary Council positioned themselves as national saviors, promising to guide Somalia toward a new era of hope. Early on, public works campaigns and self-help schemes created a sense of progress and unity. Roads were built, communities mobilized, and optimism grew. The regime projected efficiency and dynamism, a stark contrast to the previous government's stagnation. For the first time in years, Somalis felt a sense of direction. For a brief moment, it seemed Barre might deliver a brighter, united future for Somalia. The promise of transformation was in the air, but beneath the optimism, the true nature of his revolution was yet to be revealed, and Somalia's fate hung in the balance. Siad Barre's regime introduced scientific socialism, a blend of Marxist-Leninist ideas, Islamic values, and Somali traditions. Barre claimed socialism and Islam both promoted justice and equality, aiming to replace clan politics with a unified national identity. Pan-Somalism, the dream of uniting all ethnic Somalis across the Horn of Africa, became central to his vision. Maps of Greater Somalia filled schools and offices, fueling nationalist pride. The regime established orientation centers to indoctrinate citizens, while state-controlled media praised the revolution. Youth groups like the Gulwadiyal enforced loyalty and reported dissent, creating an atmosphere of total ideological immersion. Barre's goal to create a new Somali man loyal to the state, not clan. For a time, this vision of unity and progress captured the imagination of a generation. Barre's government quickly nationalized banks, oil companies, and major industries, asserting Somali sovereignty and directing resources toward socialist goals. A landmark achievement was the adoption of a Latin script for Somali in 1972, followed by a massive literacy campaign that transformed education and national identity. The regime abolished clan affiliations, encouraging citizens to identify as Jale, comrade, instead of by clan. State institutions tried to replace traditional clan systems, but these changes were hard to enforce. Clan identity remained deeply rooted, providing social support the state couldn't match. The National Security Service monitored for dissent, embedding state control in daily life. For a while, these policies seemed to centralize and modernize Somalia, but the forced erasure of clan identity bred resentment. This would later fuel opposition to Barre's rule. By the mid-1970s, Siad Barre felt his regime was strong enough to pursue the long-held dream of Pan-Somalism by launching an ambitious invasion into Ethiopia's Ogaden region. This bold move was seen as a defining moment for Somalia, a chance to unite all Somali-speaking peoples under one flag. Initially, the Somali army made rapid gains, sweeping across the Ogaden and capturing key towns. National pride soared as the dream of Greater Somalia seemed closer than ever, and celebrations erupted in the streets of Mogadishu. But the geopolitical tides shifted. The Soviets, once Somalia's main ally and arms supplier, abruptly switched their support to Ethiopia, flooding the region with weapons and bringing in thousands of Cuban troops to bolster the Ethiopian army. Barre, feeling deeply betrayed and isolated, expelled Soviet advisors from Somalia. But by then, the damage was irreversible, and Somalia stood alone on the battlefield. Ethiopia's counter-offensive, now backed by overwhelming Soviet firepower and Cuban support, crushed the Somali army's advances and forced them into a desperate retreat. By March 1978, Somali forces were in full retreat, leaving behind abandoned equipment and shattered hopes. The Ogaden dream was decisively shattered. The defeat was humiliating, leaving the once proud army broken and Barre's legitimacy in ruins. The sense of national purpose quickly faded. The immense resources wasted on the war, combined with the national humiliation, eroded public support for Barre's regime. Economic hardship and food shortages became widespread. The unity that had fueled Barre's rise evaporated, replaced by growing divisions among political groups and clans. The Ogaden War marked the beginning of the end for his regime, as the state's authority visibly crumbled. Disillusionment and anger replaced hope, and the streets of Mogadishu filled with unrest and protest. The regime's foundations began to crumble, as coup attempts and instability became the new reality. The promise of a united, powerful Somalia was lost, replaced by uncertainty and fragmentation. The revolution's true cost was only beginning to emerge, as families mourned, children wandered among ruins, and a nation struggled to recover from the devastation. After the Ogaden defeat, Barre's regime turned to repression to maintain control. The National Security Service expanded, and arbitrary arrests, torture, and executions became common. Barre began favoring his own MOD clan alliance, betraying his anti-tribalism promises and deepening divisions. Marginalized clans faced persecution, fueling resentment and armed opposition. The first major challenge came in 1978 with a failed coup by Majeerteen officers, followed by brutal reprisals. Survivors formed the Somali Salvation Democratic Front, the first armed group against Barre. In the northwest, the Isaac clan faced economic and political marginalization, leading to the Somali National Movement's formation. Barre's response was genocidal. In 1988, his forces bombed Hargeisa and Burao, killing tens of thousands. This brutality galvanized opposition and sealed the regime's fate. By the late 1980s, Siad Barre's regime was collapsing from within, its foundations eroded by years of mismanagement and growing unrest. The economy was devastated by war, rampant corruption, and disastrous policies, surviving only on dwindling foreign aid that could no longer mask the deepening crisis. As the Cold War ended, Western support faded away, leaving the regime isolated. Meanwhile, opposition groups grew stronger, more organized, and increasingly determined to overthrow Barre's rule. The Somali National Army, weakened and divided along clan lines, was no match for the determined rebels. Morale plummeted as defections increased and discipline broke down. Barre's control shrank to Mogadishu, where violence, fear, and chaos reigned. The capital became a battleground, with civilians caught in the crossfire. His elite Red Berets targeted suspected rebels, especially from the Hawaii clan, fueling even greater resistance and deepening clan divisions. In 1989, a massacre in a Mogadishu mosque shocked the city and the world, intensifying opposition and outrage against the regime. The state ceased to function, replaced by raw violence, lawlessness, and growing paranoia. Government authority vanished almost overnight. In January 1991, Barre fled Mogadishu as rebel forces swept into the city, marking the dramatic end of his rule. His 21-year dictatorship ended in chaos, leaving Somalia fractured, its cities in ruins, and its people desperate for safety. The power vacuum plunged the country into decades of brutal civil war, with no clear path to peace or stability in sight. Barre's fall in 1991 marked not peace, but the start of Somalia's long crisis. Rebel groups turned on each other and state institutions collapsed, creating a failed state. Barre's politicization of clan identity left deep divisions and mistrust, fueling the civil war that followed. Violence and human rights abuses during his rule left lasting trauma and a cycle of vengeance. The culture of impunity became entrenched, making justice and reconciliation difficult. Decades later, Somalia still struggles with the consequences: fragmentation, clan rivalry, and weak institutions. While some progress has been made, Barre's legacy is a cautionary tale of unity pursued through repression. Understanding his rise and fall is key to understanding Somalia's ongoing journey.